Hey YouTube, welcome back to our channel. My name is Elena.
I'm Bjorn.
And we are Viking Age reenactors and living historians here to talk with you about your favorite Viking shows.
Today we're making progress through Ragnarok, and we are on Season 2, Episode 4.
Ooh. Tyr.
Sure, okay.
So we have Tyr being presented in this episode, or at
Yeah.
least introduced.
Yeah, he's not one that we see too much during the Viking Age. There's some theories that say he might have actually been the Allfather like before Odin, but by the time of the Viking Age, worship for him kind of like died out a bit, or at least was on the decline. So we don't have too many stories or anything about him, but chief among them is how he lost his hand.
Yeah, so he didn't necessarily lose his hand in the battle. He lost his hand during the binding of Fenrir. And we've told the story a little bit in the past, but basically when the gods decided to bind the giant wolf Fenrir, they did so by tricking him. And they tried to bind him with a couple of different types of ropes and chains, and every time Fenrir would break out of them. And then they had this very thin thread commissioned by the dwarves that could hold anything. And when Fenrir saw that, he said, "There's no way you're going to bind me with this." And they were just like, "Oh no, it'll be fine. It's just going to be a game." And Fenrir just was not having any of it.
He's like, I see straight through you.
Yeah. He was like, "All right, you can bind me, but one of you has to put your hand in my mouth.
Trust.
And then if I can't break out and you don't unbind me, said person is losing their hand." And said person was Tyr. He stood up and he decided to be the one to put his hand in Fenrir's mouth.
Yeah, and that's kind of why he's known for being like courageous and brave, is because none of the other gods stepped forward to offer their hand, because they were all like, "Oh, we know if we say yes, we're gonna lose our hand." So Tyr was the only one who was like, "I will do it. I volunteer as tribute. I mean, I'll do it."
Yeah, they bound up Fenrir, and he wasn't able to break out of that binding, and then he was just like, "Okay, let me go," and they didn't. So they bit Tyr's hand off, and that's basically the story of how Tyr lost his hand.
That was a sacrifice.
It wasn't in battle. Now, the story does go that afterwards he had to try and somehow wield a shield in his right stump. I don't know how that worked, but he had to wield his sword in his left hand after that, but was still very good at it due to his dexterity.
Quite possibly the first left-handed god.
I've always actually liked that story because it has so many facets to it. There's also the facet of trust in that, where when Fenrir took Tyr's hand in his mouth, basically, he trusted that they would let him go. He said, "I trust that you are not going to lie to me," and he kind of did.
Yeah, pretty much.
It was a lie.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely, and that's like really a huge thing. And some have actually even used that story to explain why Tyr is no longer the Allfather, or at least to reference it a little bit, because obviously Odin was Allfather when this was happening. But this idea that, this courageous, brave, trustworthy god of justice would actively lie and, like, make their oath followable and lose a hand, like lose his fighting hand.
Yeah, I mean, that's one of the things that you learn very quickly when you read Norse mythology, is that these gods are not infallible. Even
Totally.
the most honest of them make their mistakes and give those lies and everything like that. Everyone kind of hones in on Loki as being the untrustworthy god, but you have to realize that all of the gods are infallible like that as well.
Oh yeah, even Odin especially, you know, we've talked about it multiple times, but he literally, like, his whole thing is about, you have to put your trust in him so that he can betray you.
All the emojis.
Yeah, that's way too many emojis. That's all over the place.
That's a mother with emojis.
Jag trodde Vidar skrev vårt läget. Så jag ville ut och slåss. Och det inte med att Vidar falt för öksen. Men jag har läst om den gamla världen. Du som sønn av plikt, den hevner faren hvis han får til kamp.
this was a little bit of an interesting scene because it reflects a little bit on that societal thing that the Norse had, where if you killed somebody, you could pass 2 houses but not a third before admitting to your crime, essentially. And at least in the scenes that we saw, you know, the distance and stuff we'll ignore because he passed way, technically, to get to the Jotunheim, to his house, to then Fjord. He passed way more than 3 houses.
I mean,
but
to that point, though, that was written back when farms were very far apart.
I mean, yes, exactly. But also, like, the notion of who we saw him interact with in between, it was Lauritz, his mom, and then Fjord. Mm-hmm. You know, so it was he only really saw or interacted with 3 people, and the third was Fjord, where he then kind of confessed and everything. So I do see some similarities in terms of that old law kind of thing. And I think it's very interesting that he kind of like sought it out to admit to his guilt and like try to take a little bit of responsibility to that sense, you know.
He does mention in here that he has read about the old ways, and so now he's coming out and admitting that he had killed Vidar and giving him a chance to either avenge him or do something about it, basically. And Fjord just kind of walks away.
Yeah, he just like
from that.
Accepts that they're not in that world,
yeah.
You know, and is kind of like trying to wash his hands of it, you know, and not get pulled in and involved.
Hvordan tror du det for meg å bo her sammen med deg etter det du har gjort? Beskytte deg fra fellen. Faren min?
Yeah.
Nei, pappa ville ikke drepe meg. Han skulle oppdra meg.
It's interesting to me that Lauritz seems to think that Vidar was just going to teach him a lesson.
Yeah, he was literally like, axe in hand, you can only die with this kind of weapon, and we don't tolerate betrayal.
As he's
and
walking
you betrayed us.
As he's like placing himself between Lauritz and the door.
Yeah.
I mean, listen, I get it. There is something to be said for the fact that this angsty teenage kid just found out who his father actually is and can bond with him, and then all of a sudden his brother kills his father. Like, that messes with you. But I think his anger is completely misdirected.
Yeah.
Or maybe partially. Like, I also get him being mad at Magna over the whole thing, but he has to understand why it happened.
Yeah, absolutely. And not to mention, like, he's known who Vidar was, absolutely, as just this, like, douchey businessman. Mm-hmm. But, like, he's known him as his dad for, what, like, a week? 2, maybe, tops?
A couple of weeks, yeah.
And, like, also, on their first exchange, like, immediately called him on, you're using me to get to my brother. At least be more tactful than that.
Right.
Like, so he knew he was even, like, trying to subtly play him and shit, too. Like, I don't know. I never really got their relationship fully.
The fact that, you know, Vidar had just awakened him to his true nature and was starting to at least tell him of who he was. Maybe that's why he thinks that he was just going to teach him a lesson and nothing else. I fully believe that Vidar would have killed him if Magne hadn't intervened, and Magne is just trying to get his brother back, but I think it's going to be a battle before that happens.
Yeah, absolutely. And, like, Magna obviously is showing, like, a lot of remorse and guilt. Like, it's not like he was glad to do it.
Exactly.
It's not like he really was, like, intentionally trying to kill him or anything. I think it was more of an accident anyways, but...
Yeah.
But it happened, so...
Jeg kan pimpe en motorsykkel. Jeg gidder faen ikke å pimpe opp den der pensjonisttralla di med en overbeinet hest I gull.
Awesome.
Yeah.
I love that little reference.
I don't know why he would have ever said no to that. Because if I was a mechanic and some old dude was like, I want you to paint a golden 8-legged horse on the side of my scooter, I'd be like, yeah, Grandpa, let's do this shit. That's awesome.
I'm sure most of our viewers know by this point, 8-legged horse is called Sleipnir. Yeah, you have it on your arm. He was gifted to Odin by Loki, actually. And the circumstances behind said horse's existence was Loki turning into a mare to lure away a stallion from a builder who was building a wall around Asgard. And
As part of a a bet, basically.
As part of a bet, yeah. He wanted to stop the builder from building the wall, because if he did, then he would have gotten Freya for a wife, because everyone wanted Freya for a wife. But yeah, he basically lures his stallion away, and they do the deed. And then Loki, in his female horse form, gives birth to Sleipnir, which he then presents to Odin for some reason. And Odin rides him.
Yeah, that's gotta be weird. Man, when you really think about it, Norse mythology is pretty fucking weird, huh?
Right?
It's pretty great. I like it.
There's some weird stories in there. I have this toy. I love that. Just thunk.
Like, barely even holds it, just...
Har du blitt syk? Jeg har nettopp vært hos legen. Faen har fått konstatert Bendelon. En parasitt som lever i tarmene.
Vi andre vi må forholde oss til at konsernet er Norges 5. største bedrift. Og at det er vanskelig å drive business med rimelige vilkår.
Hvorfor serverer du annet på bordet? Gjør ikke det med noen andre? Altså, nå er det jo ingen andre her, da.
That scene in the restaurant was particularly sad, I guess, for that, because like they've had a little bit of a rapport for a while, and then he just sees him go flirt off with somebody else. Granted, it was probably because he just told him he has to shit out a tapeworm, which, you know, in my eyes, is not the most flirtatious of sentences.
I mean, yeah.
To talk about at a restaurant. But yeah, I mean, even that little exchange of like, you know, he does, like, nobody else gets table service. What the hell's, what's up with that? And he was like, well, he's the only one here. And Lauritz is just like, yeah? Is he the only one here? Not the dude at the counter who was talking to you before he walked in? No? Yeah, just sucks, man. Everywhere he goes, he's just like getting put down and everything.
Yeah.
Sad.
Så har vi også bestemt at du skal opp i et emne som du virkelig brenner for, nemlig norrøn mytologi.
Gud, så
Fucking
spennende.
kid.
Ja.
Hugin og Munin og Zeus og...
Come on.
Lady.
Come on.
Zeus, really? Nice.
Faen meg hardt, da. Det er så bra.
Go Freya. Go Freya.
I don't think he realizes that was a kick. He got hit so hard.
Him fighting here with Emon, it was actually kind of cool too, because it gives you a sense of a different facet of Freya that isn't talked about. I mean, it's talked about, like, we talk about it a lot, but, you know, everyone thinks that, you know, Freya is this goddess of love. She is a goddess of war. She...
Yeah, she's like the lead Valkyrie.
Yeah, she leads the Valkyries to the battlefields to
Yeah.
pick up warriors, and then she gets the first pick of warriors before Odin can even get to them.
Yeah, exactly. Like we were just talking in a past episode, I think, in Vinland Saga, about the Valkyries coming down into battle and like taking on these visages of like bloody trolls and like wearing like torn, bloodied armor and all this kind of stuff. Like they were vicious and terrifying on the battlefield, and Freya led them. She was the apex Valkyrie, you know. So it's, yeah, I mean, she can be very beautiful and sexual and everything, but also she's terrifying. She is a top. We will say that.
I also just appreciate the fact that they've kind of put her as sort of like a left hand to Odin.
Yeah.
Almost. Because the first couple of episodes in this season, she was kind of attached to Thor because she didn't know what to do with herself. Now that Odin is awake, and she seems to be right by his side, even while Magne is trying to figure out his shit
Yeah.
by
Yeah.
himself, because he just killed a dude, and yeah, that's that messes with you.
Yeah,
sure.
I mean, I'm sure that'll create a fair amount of guilt, you know, and I get it, especially if you kill your brother's dad, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah, I get it. Yeah, but it's definitely cool to kind of start to see these different aspects of Iman as a character and that reflection with Freya, because initially we just saw the very flirtatious, like, no given kind of just almost whimsical in a sense, where she's just like doing it to get stuff, and now we're starting to see that like aggression come out, and it's like, oh yeah, got us a war, yeah, let's do it. I like it.
Du har halshugget hun gamle dama, ikke sant? Det hun brukte til å innvie deg og Magne med. Jeg har en som kan bruke til kamp. En som ikke gir opp.
Velkommen, min venn.
Oh, is he supposed to be Tyr? In the mythology, he is the son of Odin and Frigg, or we think Frigg is his mother. The other option is a goddess that is unnamed. So let's just go with Frigg for now. It's interesting that we have Iman, who is the interpretation of Freya, and there is theory out there that Freya and Frigg were actually the same goddess, depending on which century, I guess, you look at. But here, Iman is bringing who now we think is going to be the personification of Tyr to Odin, and Tyr being Odin's son. And here we're going to have Odin basically awaken him.
Right.
Along with Freya being right there.
Oh, and so you're trying to say of like the Freya character is introducing the Tyr character to the Odin character.
Yes.
And like creating him into Tyr, and because she has a connection sort of with Frigg as like the mother of Tyr and Odin, it's like
it's like the parents giving birth to their son.
Like they're birthing Tyr in like a really weird roundabout. Okay, I can see it.
I don't know if that was their intention with this scene.
It's a little meta, but I get it.
Like, I almost think that the writers did not intend it to be anyway like this. They were just like, we just need to introduce this character, and Odin has the necklace, so he needs to be brought over.
Yeah.
And given the pat on the head to awaken him.
I'm a little sad we didn't really see more of like his awakening or like his character in this. I know they had a lot to do. It was very dramatized and everything, so we'll probably see more of them in the next episode, but it's at least cool to get that quick introduction for him.
Yeah.
Vidar er død, ikke sant? Så nå virker det som folk i bygda begynner å få litt sympati for den der YouTube-gjengen. At de synes synd på dem, ikke sant? Og Saksa har blitt sånn talsperson for det.
Bear with you, I need a second to catch my breath from this awkwardness.
Ting er litt vanskelig med meg og deg. Men jeg har lyst til å si at jeg synes det er trist at vi er ferdig.
It's like, what are emotions?
Is it just me, or does it seem like Saksa is absolutely, completely, and totally emotionless all of the time, except for when she sees Magna?
Yeah, it's kind of weird. For whatever reason, like, he gets to her or something.
Yeah, like that scene that we saw a couple of episodes ago where she was trying to flirt, like, hardcore flirt with him, but even here, she's not even trying to do anything, but he comes up and says that he's sorry about her father, and she, like, actually seems, like, a little bit touched by it. Whereas, like, his mom gives her this, like, huge bear hug, and she's just like, could you, like, not?
I don't like to be touched. Yeah, it's definitely strange, like... It seems like she's able to kind of like really separate herself pretty easily from the emotional state. And I think that they mentioned that a little bit in passing in earlier episodes. Either her or Vidar has kind of talked about it, just, like not getting involved in the human world and emotions icky kind of thing. And yeah, it's really strange to see how she's able to separate it so easily, but then she just randomly has these interactions with Magna, like in the cafe on when they were doing the track and field thing at the end of season 1 with the javelin. Like, she got really emotional, like personal and shit with him then, and now this, it's very strange. I'm not really getting their deal yet.
Whoa.
Something with Odin's blood, maybe? Or Vidar dying?
Hva er det der?
Den er bare litt større enn...
Yggdrasil. Or, wow, I'm retarded. It's, Jörmungandr.
What?
What the f-? Also, why? Also, what? And maybe... What? How? Huh?
For a second, I thought that he legitimately just got pregnant with a horse. But in here, we get a tapeworm that is turning into a large, what is presumably serpent? Jörmungandr, is that you? Is that what it's gonna be? Is it gonna keep growing?
That's what it seems like, this little guy now.
Is it gonna keep growing? It's still alive.
Yeah, I want to see it. This can't just be like a random thing that they do. Like, it's gotta have more weight and gravity to it. You wouldn't just have him literally give birth to a miniaturized world serpent for like nothing.
Exactly.
Like, just for the sheer giggles. No way. I can't wait to see what happens with that, either in the next 2 episodes or in the next season or something.
It's kind of crazy.
Also, not to mention, Magna just killed Lauritz' father, and now Lauritz is giving birth to Magna's archenemy, the World Serpent.
Shit, yeah.
Because Thor and Jörmungandr are literal archenemies. Can I see it?
I mean, I'd want to see it.
That's what I ask the doctors every single time.
I'd want to see it.
Yeah.
Vidar Jutøl ble 52 år gammel. Han har betydd ufattelig mye, ikke bare for Edda, men for hele Norge. I dag minnes vi Vidar Jutøl.
Håper det er plass i kirken nå til oss.
Again, the town has no drinking water because of him. People are weird. The Norse gods and the Christian church.
I was about to say, you think he would have protested to this? Oh, awkward. That whole scene is very strange. That whole experience with just like these very pagan characters in a Christian church, and like the storm coming and like the thunder and lightning gathering as the Thor character is praying to a Christian god to try to give up his powers. And then like the priest is taking that as like a sign from God, and it's all over the place. There's so much going on. It's so weird to see that.
It is kind of interesting because it's a little bit of a clash of the old world versus new world. You have a family of Jotnar who are in the Christian church basically, but at the same time, for any onlookers, for humans that are living there, it's not out of the ordinary. You know, you go to church and you have your funeral and you do your thing, but it's gotta be weird for them at the same time.
Yeah.
And that's a really good point that you're bringing out, that Magna is basically praying to the Christian god so that he may give up his powers. It's sort of indicative a little bit of somebody giving up their
faith.
They're giving up their faith, giving up their heathen Viking ways in order to become a Christian almost.
Yeah.
And trusting in the power of Christ to take them to salvation.
Yeah.
Essentially.
Yeah, which is it's even stranger coming from a god, essentially.
Yeah.
You know? Because it's like, from his perspective, I mean, he's only 17 and he's just recently entered into this world, but I mean, he kind of still is like a Norse god,
right?
In the sense, and it's even weirder, I'm sure, for the Jutels, because they literally are or were old pagan gods, and they watched as like that religion was kind of like overthrown throughout history and everything, and they like experienced it in real time.
Yeah.
You know, and now they have to like go there and put on a face and just kind of pretend in this chapel. You know, like
that they have that faith.
I can't imagine how strange or like frustrating that would be.
Hey, sis.
Jesus og faren vår passer på mange måter litt dårlig sammen.
I mean, I totally thought that was going to be a moment where like Lauritz kind of put himself in that new role and like kind of tried to take on that mantle of being the new Vidar, essentially.
I think he still might, honestly.
Yeah, it might come down to a little bit of that, you know, butting heads with Lauritz and Fjor now trying to enter back into the world, you know, into the family and into their society and stuff. We'll see how it's received, because also Saxa's not going to want to let that happen. She wants to take control, so she's not going to give it up lightly.
Yeah.
So there might even, you know, Lauritz being that Loki trickster character might just try to play them against each other and have fun kind of playing on both sides.
That's a good point. I do wonder what he's going to be doing. Honestly, this entire season, he's been beaten down so much. He wanted to be on his brother's side and was basically told by Odin to go himself. And then he tried to be on Vidar's side, and then Vidar died. And now he doesn't know what to do with himself. He goes back to the cafe where he's trying to flirt with this gay dude, and the gay dude is flirting with some other gay dude, and he's just like, what the He's trying to find so hard where he belongs, and at every single point, the door just gets shut in his face, it seems.
Yeah.
So now it seems in here like he's trying to, once again, side with the Utils, but he's probably going to run into an issue with Saxa.
Skal du bare gå? Hva skjer nå? Men det er det her du vil. Du kan ikke bare dra.
So I guess in the end, Fjord just kind of went back to his family.
Yeah.
That's a little bit disappointing, but I feel like he's definitely going to have more of a role to play in all of this.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to kind of see what comes of it and how he tries to take on that familial responsibility and, like, you know, coming back as, like, the avenging prodigal son kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's definitely a cool introduction or re-entry for him.
Yeah.
Sucks for Gry. I don't know if her story is just ending from here on out, you know, or
Yeah.
if she's gonna have another part to play of trying to bring him back to humanity.
Or if this is like the last time we
Or
see her.
or it's just that's her exit, and we don't know. So that's a little bit.
That's a sad exit if it is.
That's a little sad.
After all of this time.
Yeah, sucks for her. But hey, she's able to get away.
Yeah. Actually,
she doesn't even know how lucky she has it.
Yeah, she's not gonna have to be there when all of the shit hits the fan.
Yeah, maybe she'll come back when shit hits the fan and try to be that grounding figure.
Yeah, I feel like we haven't really been paying too much attention to her story this entire time. She's just been kind of hanging out. She lost her father.
Yeah.
And then Fjord lost his dad, so they were able to kind of connect on that front. And now Fjord's left her, so she basically has lost like everything except for her mom at this point.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting because she seems to be the only character that's really like bringing people back into the normal, like, world, like the new world. She's very much that like one last connection to the way the world currently is, the modern age, because everybody else is like involved in the old world and being, you know, revived as gods and battling for good versus evil, kind of, you know, whatever crazy shit is going on, and she's like the only one there who's like just trying to live her life, you know.
I mean, you could say the same for Magne and Lauritz's mother.
Yeah, true.
Like,
actually,
she still has no idea what's going on around her. She's just trying to like make ends meet and put food on the table.
Yeah, that's a good point. I think she's more like kind of caught in it.
She is right in the middle of it.
Yeah, she's right in the middle and doesn't even know what's going on. But like Gry does. You know, she saw some of that at the end, and like they had that discussion, and she's actively trying to pull Fjord like out of it and keep him not involved, but like engaged as like a human. You know, like, you should go to your dad's funeral. He died. Even if you weren't close or had a falling out, he's still your dad.
Right. And
just trying to like have him live that like that human life, essentially.
Like a normal life.
Yeah, like a normal person.
Yeah.
So her exiting might be that kind of final tie.
Like the thing that really starts off everything else.
Yeah, you know, now that now that she's leaving, like, all right, we don't have to worry about school and exams and shit. We can just get to business, and then it's just gonna be poor Turid, like caught in the middle of it, just not understanding.
Thank you guys so much for watching. We hope you enjoyed it. If you did, hit the like button. If you're new to the channel, make sure to subscribe and hit the bell so you can be notified of our future videos. And we'll see you in the next one.